Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 20th episode of the Information Paradise podcast. Here we have Safyra.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me, David. This is awesome.
What do? You're like, you have a service.
I'm a psychic surgeon. I do Taoist Qigong practice. I teach yoga, and I'm overall all healing arts. So I work with the body, a business called Embodiedbysafyra, and I work from the body through to the mind and into the spirit. So I kind of I'm combining body, mind, and spirit. But I'm starting working with the body, with the physical, with yoga and Qigong, and moving us into the spiritual realms.
Where should we start? I have no idea.
Do you want me to talk about the body stuff first? That's
yeah. It's on the mind.
Yeah, I started out as an athlete when I was in high school, and then became a professional dancer, and had a lot of injuries, a lot of pain in my body, and so I found yoga and Thai massage when I was 19, actually, and going through healing those injuries and healing all that stuff, I learned that there's something else moving through the body other than, fixing your tendons and ligaments. And I started working with the energy. I was mostly working with Thai massage to heal my body. And in working with a Thai massage therapist, he was moving my body and stretching me and opening up the joints, but then he said that he was working with the energy channels, and I would have these experiences working with him where he would touch a particular point in one of these channels, and I would just start crying, or I would start freezing up or having some type of response in my body, and he would just kind of guide me into staying with that pain or staying with whatever it was until it passed and left my body. And through the Thai massage, I began to heal from what I had zero connection to being past traumas. So I had like abuse when I was younger, and I didn't think that it affected me when I was dancing, but it did. It was stored cellular trauma in my body. And when this Thai massage therapist started moving the energy through me, it all came out, and it all started releasing, and it all started, exposing itself. It's stuff that I had just blocked away. I had put it over here, and I had moved into a different place in my life, and I was like, I'm fine. And then he started working with me, and all of this stuff just would come out. And he guided me through the Thai massage and doing yoga to move through all this stuff. And then I just started finding all kinds of things. So then I found the Qigong, and I really feel that, in today's age where we're working with healing and everyone has a therapist and everyone's doing this talk therapy thing, that's not the way. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, and it talks about stored information in the body and how the body keeps the score. Like if you look at the body and you touch the body and you work with the body, you can get all the information about a person, and you can heal some of this stuff that's going on through the body. So yeah, it's interesting. That started the whole journey. Then I went from one thing to the next, and have developed a whole program for healing for people.
Cool. Yeah. So that guy is pretty important.
Yeah. I would
cool
say
guy.
he was in the beginning, yeah, and then there just became milestone people along the way, all the way up to my Qigong master. You just sort of, when you're on this path, you just sort of are put in front of the right person at the right time every single time.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like, why do Qigong? And also, what is Qigong?
So when I talk about the Thai massage, he was moving energy through my body. Okay, so in Thai massage, they have a whole map of the energy lines of the body, and they're actually lines that go down your arms, that go through your face, and all over. And so you can hit these points and move the energy through the system. It's very similar to acupuncture, if you know anything about acupuncture, which is a lot more popular than Thai massage. Acupuncture has a whole set of these meridian lines that run through the body, and the acupuncturist comes and takes a needle and puts it into this line and starts moving the energy faster and clears the way so that chi, or energy, can move through your body. So the acupuncturist, for some reason, acupuncture has become one of the most popular Eastern healing modalities, but there's a ton of them out there. And every single Asian system has these energy lines in it. Even the Indian system has, they're called nadis. So the energy lines in the Indian system. And so there's got to be some truth to it, that there's a map, right? That just like we have the map of the blood vessels in the body, there's a map of the energy lines in the body. And so acupuncture will move that energy, move the chi through the lines and heal you from disease and heal you from all kinds of ailments. Qigong is the basis of acupuncture. So Qigong is the practice the acupuncture is technically supposed to be doing before they do acupuncture. So they're supposed to pull qi, or energy, into their system and build their system so that their system is strong and vibrant with life force energy, and then do the healings through the acupuncture to move energy from their vessel, channeling this, pulling this energy into their system to put it into a person's body to heal them. So if you go way back in China, which is where Qigong comes from, Qigong comes from China. If you go back pre-communism, pre-Mao, right? Mao Zedong, pre all of this control over the population, you had what I would call, and I don't know if it's an official term, I would call the shamans of China were the Qigong masters who were also acupuncturists. So you had these guys way back in the day who, you weren't an acupuncturist unless you were a Qigong practitioner. So you first developed yourself, you cultivated your own chi, you cultivated your own life force energy, and then you learned this whole system of healing, and you were able to offer that healing to another person. But in communist China, they separated the two because there's so much power in it. These people had a lot of, like, the vibrancy of somebody who does that type of mystical work, moving energy through themselves and into another person's body, is so they're just so powerful that my understanding, my belief, which is just an opinion, is that they communist China couldn't have that, can't have people that are individually powerful, right? You have to, so they cut it. So they cut this, they made a separation between a Qigong master and acupuncture. So now today you just have acupuncture, right? And so anyone can go to school for acupuncture, whether you're doing Qigong or not, right? And then you have Qigong, which is not widely practiced in China. It's all separated. So you have all these different pockets in China of people that are practicing Qigong, and it's not very unified. The only time it's ever been unified is with Falun Gong. Have you ever heard of Falun Gong?
No.
So Falun Gong is a particular practice of Qigong. So if you know anything about like yoga has a bajillion different lineages and teachers and gurus and ways of practicing. And so you can do Ashtanga yoga, you can do Anusara yoga, you can do rocket yoga today, the modern stuff, you can do Hatha yoga, you can do yin yoga. There's a million different teachers and a million different pockets of information out there. So China's the same. There's all these different types of Qigong and teachers and everything. And so there's this one form, Falun Gong, which became very popular in China because they simplified it. They made it a 15 to 30 minute practice that everyone could do. And so masses of people in China started doing the Falun Gong practice. And getting themselves healthy. So healing their bodies and pulling qi into their system and strengthen. And really, what Qigong is really targeting in particular, so there's different energy cultivation forms out there. So there's yoga, there's Tai Chi, there's Qigong, there's a couple of these modalities that are really powerful for pulling qi or energy into your system. But this one in particular, they just made it simple enough that the masses could do. And so everybody started doing it and became this kind of mass awakening in China. And people, you can see if you look it up, there was like, thousands of people that would gather together and do the same practice and then sit for meditation together. And so what did the communist government do? They outlawed it. So they banned the Chinese people from being able to practice Falun Gong. And to this day, you'll see in some major Western cities, you'll see Chinese people standing with their little signs saying, fight for Falun Gong in China, because it's been outlawed over there, and so and you'll get arrested. Like if you are caught practicing that form of Qigong in China, you will get arrested. So there's a lot of people in the West here that still practice it and fight to have it be a free practice in China. Anyways, that's a lot of information, but it's a very powerful healing modality that comes out of China. I guess that's the short version.
When did this Falun Gong start? Is it ancient or is it?
Qigong is ancient. Qigong is thousands and thousands of years old. Falun Gong, I don't remember, since the 70s. It's become a popular movement, I think, since the 70s, and it's just been controlled in the last, I don't know the specifics. So the last 10 years or so, it's really just been controlled and locked down over there.
Yeah, because I was reading a story in this book here. And this is in the description, everybody. Woohoo! There is a story in ancient China where most of the people were becoming unhealthy, and then somebody came in, very famous, into the town or the city, and they ordered them to not ordered, but they suggested to do Qigong. And then there was this popular practice. So it sounded a lot like that. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah. The levels that you can get to with Qigong are quite incredible. There's Mantak. Mantak Chia is the teacher that I study underneath. And Mantak Chia. What's that?
In real life?
Yes, Mantak Chia is he has a place called Dao Garden in Thailand, and he's got a huge. And by the way, if you look at the history of how Qigong is controlled in China, Mantak Chia is Chinese and has a lineage of Qigong behind him, but grew up in Thailand, and so he had the freedom in Thailand to develop and expand his practice. But a lot of these teachers in China don't have the freedom. They just go and become regular, 9-to-5ers because there's nowhere to go with their practice. But Mantak luckily grew up in Thailand, so he built Dao Garden. He built this huge place where you can go and you can practice Qigong. And he has now a center there where they have all kinds of modern bioenergetic tools. So they offer everything from B vitamin shots to cleanses to colonics to light therapies he's got all kinds of machines now. And so he has people that come with major illnesses, so MS and cancer and a lot of debilitating illnesses, and he works with them through Qigong and all of his little therapies in his clinic. And there's a whole team of acupuncturists and people that live there, and people with the weirdest diseases come and get healed through the Qigong. It's pretty powerful.
So have you stayed in that village or place?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I stayed there, and I like to think that I'm good at what I do. I practice Qigong every day, but when I went there, I practiced for a couple weeks and I had like some just mind-blowing experiences where I was doing the same practices that I was doing at home, but with a little bit of a tweak, a little bit of something more he was teaching me. And I just had these like mind-blowing experiences. I wanted to move there and live there. Some people do. There are people that just live there and stay there all the time. He has a dark room. He does these dark room retreats where you'll go into a room for a week at a time and live in the dark. And those are the deepest practices you could ever do. Like if you talk about, the yogis that go into the Himalayas and meditate, if you go to Mantak Chia's Tao Garden and do a darkroom retreat, I mean, I've actually never done it. Haven't had the time to be out there at the times when they're offered. But I hear the stories, and you live in the dark for an entire week, and you're fed food and you're given resources to survive. But you're doing your qigong, you're meditating, and you're living in the dark so that you're turning off certain stimulants in the brain, and then you're activating other things that would increase the production of melatonin, which would increase the production of serotonin, and create a different chemical makeup in your system. And people have some pretty life-changing experiences in that dark room. So
Imagine a float tank in that room.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would be pretty much like you're just a bodiless subject in space, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's go on to meditation. What's your experience with meditation?
Meditation is amazing. Meditation is getting your mind to stop, and it's very, very hard to do. It's one of those practices that I would say is at the top. So I do yoga as well as Qigong, and I find the yoga practice to just feel good in your body. You get to stretch, you get to move, you get to calm the nervous system, and yoga just makes you feel good, right? Qigong helps you pull in a lot of power into your system, a lot of energy into your system. Meditation comes after all of that. Like after you've prepared the body, after you have a clean diet and you don't have a lot of stimulants or toxins in your system, and you've done your yoga or you've done your qigong, you've calmed the nervous system, you've calmed yourself, you've centered yourself, you've grounded yourself, then you can sit for meditation. And it's just one of those things. It's really hard to do. It's hard to still the mind. It's hard to calm yourself, and really get to that centered place. But when you do, it is, it's the best feeling in the world, like you sit in a meditative state and you just kind of go inward and you get the mind to stop. And you get the body to relax, and everything sort of, your nervous system just sort of drops, and you just sink for a second, and you can stay in this nowhere place for a very long time. Like you can stay in this space of, I would say, nothingness, where nothing really matters. Time doesn't matter. You don't matter. And it feels really good. It's really blissful, like people, I feel like everyone should be doing meditation. It's one of those things where I could just stay in a meditative state all day, every day. I mean, anytime I get into the place, and it's hard to get into the place. Like living a busy life, I live in LA and I'm doing things, and I really do have to prep to get into a meditative state, but once I'm there, I don't ever want to leave, it's just this like, everything is amazing kind of space to be in.
That when the monkey is satiated and has an enjoyable body to sort of inhabit, then the mind has less survival thinking to do. So like less anxiety, less urgent thoughts.
I would just say the mind is always going to be crazy, whether you're in survival mode or you're bored. I mean, the bored mind is worse. The bored mind is, I'm going to just daydream and think about this and think about that and let my mind wander and have no control over my mind whatsoever. You know, it's a, what's the word? It's just work to control the mind. You know, it's like controlling the body, controlling the diet, controlling your emotions. Like, well, not, I don't know if the word control is right. It's more like having awareness of your body and your emotions and your mind, and being able to just constantly bring it back and constantly bring it back and you know, I don't think that anyone, even a meditation teacher, you know, is not in some place where they've conquered their mind and they have control over survival mechanisms and all that stuff. It's more just the practice of constantly bringing yourself back. If you get stressed out or you get fearful or you get like spacey, is constantly bringing it back, constantly practicing to center the mind and pull yourself back and then control the thoughts. And, you know, who's in charge here? You know, is the mind, you know, this monkey mind that's going, is he in charge, she in charge, or is your essence, your being, your centered higher self in control of this, you know? So that's all it is who gets to be in control?
Diets. What would you say about diets?
Diet. Diet is really important. I think that these days well, I mean, you don't live in the US. I think that in the United States, there's something in our food. I think there's something in our food. There's a lot of marketing out there for people to buy particular types of products. And so in order to keep someone hooked on a product, I believe that most companies are putting extra sugar in their foods and processing stuff and getting people addicted to certain types of foods. And so I think that just because I've traveled so much and I've experienced food in different cultures, and for instance, like bread in Europe tastes very different from bread in the US. And I've just always wondered, like, why is that? Like, I feel like there's real bread in Europe and then there's fake bread in the US. So I don't know. I just think that our diets here, especially in the United States, are weird and wonky. And when I have cleaned up my own diet, gotten rid of processed foods and toxins and gone organic, or I've had times in my life where I've been vegan, everything is working better. My system works better. My mind is calmer. You know, the sugar in our food really spikes the mind, and it makes the mind go up and down and up and down, and our emotions go with it. And so I think that the diet is a huge part of it. It's, you know, our practice of centering ourselves comes with the diet, and also just eating on a regular schedule. Like eating on a regular routine and a regular schedule helps the mind to feel settled, you know. And I think that the stimulants that we have access to just cause the mind to go all over the place, you know. It's like a drug. So
yeah, I remember my mum went to New York and she came back and brought with her some Cheetos or something. And they tasted really weird.
Yeah, I mean, that's not food. This is some of the stuff that they offer us in the you know, in the supermarkets is just not real food. We shouldn't be eating it. You wouldn't give it to your pet, right? So
yeah. Fasting is also something I found recently. Recently I found it, and it's great when we prove ourselves the effects of something, you know, and like we really experience the effects. It's not just like, oh, I should do it, or yeah. So fasting is one for me there. And then the second one, which I want to talk about later, is semen retention as a man. Really works, really says what it says on the tin, does what it says on the tin.
Yeah, that's a huge part of the Taoist practice. Yeah.
Yeah. So fasting, what do you think about fasting?
I think it's an amazing practice. It's all about self-control. It's all about taming the mind, So when you can release yourself of these bodily urges, food, alcohol, drugs, sex, like when you can pull back from all of that and you can say no and you can control your urges, it's like controlling the mind. You have more power. You have more power over yourself, And so I think a practice of regular fasting is great. I don't know about those long fasts where people, stop eating for 10 days at a time. I don't know if that's good for you or not. I don't know the science behind it, but I know that like a 1 to 3 day fast consistently throughout the year is really healthy because it'll also give the digestive system a chance to stop, and a chance to just recalibrate, and it'll also calm your nervous system. And so anytime I've fasted, I feel amazing. When I fast, I feel like I have so much more energy. It's wild. I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm not eating food, but I have a ton of energy right now. I don't understand.
Yeah. It's like once we're continually digesting stuff, like energy is all poured towards that, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it all goes into your digestive tract, and then it's not used for your brain, right? So when the energy doesn't have to go there, it can go elsewhere. You can use it for other things.
Yeah. Man. There's a lot to digest.
A lot of information, yeah.
Okay.
But I think that's why the yogis in India, they fast for long periods of time and then go into meditation, because it slows everything else down in the body, so there's less energy going into the digestive work, and then they do have more control over their emotions and their mind, and there's no stimulation whatsoever. And when you get to that place of no stimulation, and I am by no means that person. I live in Los Angeles and I have a job, and I'm, around tons of people and go out to music events, and, so there's a lot of, well, not in quarantine right now, but I'm by no means a yogi meditating in the woods, but I have had those moments of fasting and dropping in, even in this chaos that I live in. And I just think that when you fast and stop and are still, you find another level of bliss and peace and happiness out there, So it really is, as the Buddhists say, like non-attachment. Like when you can let go of the food, and you can let go of bodily urges, and you can let go of emotional urges, and you can control the mind, you become unattached to your world, and you go into another level of being, another level of existence where you are clear, and you can feel better, you can feel bliss, and you can see things clearer in the world. It's pretty powerful stuff.
About 10 seconds before you said the word being, I was thinking, instead of a human doing, human being. We really become more of a human being. Just as an animal, because the same consciousness, it's just belief, but it feels true to me. The same consciousness permeates every living thing. What do you think about that?
Oh, it's absolutely true. The same consciousness permeates every living being. Yeah, it's true. What? I mean, okay, if you want to go deep with this stuff, if you pull away from the physical reality and the physical world in front of you, you go into what I call the mainframe. Like you look at a computer, like there's a mainframe set up that's going to give you the functionality of this computer that's going to be your tool to use for information in the world. If you can detach from the external world and go into the mainframe in here, you can be the creator of your reality. You can be the consciousness that drives everything. And that is really how we're built. You know, I've had these moments of meditating in the jungle in Thailand where I'm so still and in this centered place that I'm connected to the mainframe of everything. And I can hear the plants. So the plants will speak to me, and they have information, and they'll talk. And so when you go into this mainframe of everything, you have another level of consciousness and awareness, and you get information, and so it's in this stillness, and we have this incredible ability to drop in and go into the mainframe and get this information and understanding of how the world works and what we need and what we want to do with it, and an ability to then form a belief or an idea in that space of being in this relaxed, total bliss state of setting an intention and creating our reality. We have this absolute ability to then create our reality from this space of nothingness. And I think that this is a lost art. Like, people have forgotten how powerful we are. You know, we're just all triggers of what's in front of us. You know, like, oh, this person said something about me. Oh, this is happening right now. Oh, I don't have enough money. Oh, the coronavirus is going to kill me. And so you just are like in this, like, oh, I'm reacting to this, and I'm reacting to this, and I'm reacting to this. Whereas we can go into this state where we can listen first. I think it's important to listen to the consciousness that's there, get information, and then decide on what we're creating and see that as our intention. And the only thing that can happen then is that intention, right? Because when you're in that place of the total blissed out state of the mainframe of how your consciousness works in connection with the consciousness around you, you can only then manifest the thing that you're thinking about or visualizing. That's what manifestation is. And this whole law of attraction thing is that when you get into that state, you can really truly be the driver of your life, of your reality. For example, I said just a couple weeks ago, I want to start getting my work out there. I've been doing the work. I've been in my space, but I haven't been popular or public, right? So I just said a couple weeks ago, I want to start doing more podcast interviews. You came out of nowhere, right? You just contacted me out of the blue and said, would you like to do a podcast interview? I was like, oh, okay, cool. I mean, so I created that, right? I created this piece of my reality right now. And that's the power that we have constantly, you know, but we just don't go there. We don't drop into that deep place to go there to, first of all, gather information, because you can gather more information when your mind is still, and the consciousness that's around you will feed into you. Like, you'll just start to know things. And then from that elevated level of consciousness, you can set an intention, and then things move around that. Your intention drives you, you know, things will come. And that's our true power. That's our true ability as a higher level beings to function in the world, you know. But we are just locked into what I would call the three-dimensional program. We're locked into this three-dimensional program where people think that they are their body. They think that they are their families. They think that they are their culture, and they have to react to what's in front of them, when you just don't. Like, you can be so powerful.
Do that in front of a bully, everybody. You know what I mean? When I was 16, like, if someone said something like, not a bully, but, and you just don't react, the power is insane.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And a thing about how whatever you're thinking about, it has to be put into reality. You can't think of two thoughts at once. Try, everyone. Yes.
You can't. Yeah.
What do you think about time?
Time. I think that there is a separation. I kind of look at it as masculine versus feminine ways of being in the world. I think that we live in a masculine, time-bound, and controlled patriarchal structure in the world right now. And that's about to lift. I think coronavirus, I think what's happening right now in the world, I think the economic collapse, all of this is about to break down the masculine system, right? This time-bound reality that we live in. And I mean, the age of Aquarius, which should be the opening of the divine feminine, is coming. So that's December 21st, 2020 is the beginning of the great age of Aquarius. And so we're in this massive shift right now, massive, massive shift, which I would call the breakdown of the time-bound masculine structure that's been controlling humanity. So we're about to go through it this year. This breakdown is about to be really real. Like, people are not going to be okay functioning in this, or having to go through the breakdown of the current system. What's possible and what it will open up into is the timelessness of the feminine. And so I think that's where we're headed, is, if you want to call it three-dimensional reality versus four-dimensional reality, you want to call it masculine versus feminine, you want to call it time-bound versus timeless, I don't know. But I know that we're going into something that's going to lift this controlled structure over humanity, and people are going to open up into higher levels of consciousness. And a lot of it has to do with time. Time is I think a construct where you can step out of. Like, you can go into timelessness. If you've ever had a moment of being in the zone, as they call it, where you just don't know how much time is passing. You don't know what you're doing. You're not conscious of what you're doing in that moment. You're just in like this empty space of creation. That's what meditation is. That's what, an artist might fall into when they're in a creation process, or someone who's like super, super focused on something that lights them up. When you're in that timeless, spaceless space, you're just in a creation process. And the time can be, 5 minutes, or it can be 5 hours, and you don't really know or notice that this time is passing. And you can create a lot in that space, where just, people have written books in a very short period of time, because they go into that timeless space, where if you were to look and calculate the amount of time that they spent working on something, it doesn't make sense, and so I think that time is malleable. I think it's good to have a clock. I think it's good to have the masculine structure that says, that this is a time we can meet up and we can be on a time schedule that's going to help us to function. There's a need for that, right? To connect people and all these things. But you also can live without it. You can completely live in the feminine and be in something called synchronicity, where you just line up with things and you don't know what time it is. You don't know where you're going. You don't know the goal. You don't know the future. You just are living in this space of being, and you sync up. You sync up with the people that are doing the thing that you're trying to do, or you read the book in the right moment, or you see the sign in the right moment, and then you're learning the thing that you're supposed to learn, and you're moving like this through the world, and that's what's available in a timeless space. So I don't know. Have you ever had those experiences of just connecting or being in the right place at the right time?
Yes, too many to, because whenever I think of time, always I'm brought to the moments right now, and I have this great thing. I'm going to make a video about this, like a little challenge for social media. Everybody take your phone, set an alarm for it to go off every minute, and check if it's still now. Right?
That's a good challenge, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to release the 24-hour video, and it's going to be great of me actually doing it.
Oh, you're going to release a 24-hour video?
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can. That'd be so funny. It would prove it scientifically. That
it's still now. Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
Is it still now?
I think it's still now. Right now, it's now. Yeah.
Yes. The revolution of, so we say the masculine into the feminine. This can also be represented by the spiral dynamics model here. I'll put it on the screen. Basically, we're all going from orange, most of us in first world, to green. Most of humanity is predominantly blue at 40%, while 30% of humanity is predominantly orange. And green is like peace, love, man, take away but the great thing about green is that we retain our orange scientific stuff and measurements of change. We still have time, and so we can survive as a society, but a loving society. And so it's because there's a lot of order, and it swings from order to chaos to order. And yeah,
I think that's what's happening right now. I think that we're in a place where we're going to move into an elevated consciousness that's timeless, and we will carry with us all the tools of a time-bound understanding of how reality works, this scientific method of measurement of what's going on. Actually, Mantak Chia has let a lot of scientists study him. And he wants that. He wants the scientific community to study what's happening in these esoteric worlds and practices, so you can actually see the raising of the vibration. And he had some doctors somewhere put some thing on his brain to measure the electricity that's running through his brain, and he would do his practices, and they could see all these different parts of his brain light up when he did the practices. And they're like, what are you doing? And he was like, oh, I'm pulling energy up from this organ right now. Oh, I'm pulling energy up from this organ. Oh, I'm pulling my sexual energy up right now. And they can see it all lighting up in the brain. So it's good, that now we have the scientific tools to be able to measure all of this and actually understand it.
The internet is insane.
Yeah.
It's only 20 years old. Yeah. It's only 20 years old. We never had this ability to communicate across species any information we want.
Yeah.
So it's an exciting time to be alive.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of things are going to change this year. A lot of things are happening right now.
Yeah. All sorts of different viewpoints as well on the situation, but I'll probably get banned if I mention any. YouTube. Well, the next thing that came into my mind was the topic of artificial intelligence. What do you think about? What do you think about that?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one. I think it's real. I think that we're stepping into an age where we really have to address it as a part of our culture. I think that people don't take it seriously. Like these devices have an ability to think for us, and we're at some level getting dumbed down because of it, So, yeah, I mean, I think that it kind of scares me, artificial intelligence, where it's going, because we are just the exponential rate of growth, I think, more than anything is what scares me. Because when I was a kid, we had the computer. Like, it was a big deal. Like, we had a computer. Oh my gosh, we just got a computer, and it was this huge monitor and this huge thing, and we were trying to figure out how to, type this little thing. And now, we have these cell phones, and carry things around and put a whole phone in your ear plug, and you just talk and walk and run, and it's just the exponential growth has been insane, So 20 years from now, where are we going to be with artificial intelligence? I mean, I think that it's a real thing that we have to be prepared for. I think that these machines are going to get smarter than us, and I think that we need to stay in control of it all. But I mean, one thing that it is doing is these, telephones and the internet is giving us a physical form to be able to touch that helps us to understand that there's a consciousness out there, right? So we're able to tap in through a machine right now to the consciousness that's out there. But, I do a lot of meditation, and I do my clairvoyant work and psychic work, and I'm tapping into that field through that work without a machine, So, I mean, my hope would be that people would understand through these machines that there's an intelligence out there, that there's a consciousness out there that we could always tap into. We just happen to use this device to be able to tune in to that frequency that's going to help me to talk to someone on the other side of the world. But you technically could just tune in to the consciousness in the world and talk to someone out there if we were all practicing. If we were all, in that level, then we could be functioning like that. But, we use machines, and so we're really going to have to raise our consciousness, as a planet, to be able to control the machines, because they're going to control us if we don't have a higher level of consciousness than them. So, I don't know. Yeah.
A great thing about the evolution of consciousness of humanity is the scientists who are creating all the engineers. Imagine if their consciousness raises so that they can create like a utopia. But if they're kind of below stage green, if they're like about myself, then they're probably gonna make ego based from an ego,
Mm-hmm.
So but my underlying points, the one I haven't said yet, is the death of these bodies doesn't really matter, because like we said, what we are permeates all.
Yeah, it does. I mean, we are ultimately just consciousness, so.
Yeah, we could just party with these bodies, really, could we?
Might make it a lot easier if we did.
Yeah. In the same way this is dark, but in the same way that the drug user takes the pain away.
Mm-hmm.
Just party.
And just goes into that level of consciousness where they can just be in the consciousness and not deal with reality.
Yeah. I think of Kurt Cobain a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like, when we were saying about creating stuff from the infinite nothingness and stuff, I just imagine his music just blasting out of nothing like the Big Bang did. Just this raw power. I fucking love him. But yeah. Also, he would go probably to, I don't know, I mean, with heroin, I'd never tried it, I don't know. But maybe we go into that place.
I don't know. I mean, Who knows too, like with those musicians, did they, I mean, he was making music before the drugs, you know.
Mhm.
So he
Maybe it
was
was the fact.
probably tapping into the field naturally, you know. And who knows when or how all of that came, you know. So maybe it helped him, maybe it didn't. I don't know.
The Bleach album definitely came from a Big Bang. That's all did, really. I don't know how was this all created. The Big Bang, it implies time, doesn't it? Because it has to have started here and then ended up here.
Mm-hmm.
So really, there's no Big Bang. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I think that everything is constantly moving. So I feel like if there is a Big Bang that actually happened, we're still in it, right? It's still in its explosion, right? Because energy is constantly moving, and so the atoms and molecules around us are constantly moving and vibrating. So things are constantly expanding. So who knows? I don't know if you can say like when it started and when it ends. Like things are constantly moving around us, so they will constantly be changing. So we constantly have the ability to affect our reality and move it how our consciousness wants it to move. You know, have you seen those or heard of the study on electrons and how the electrons are smart and they'll move once. So someone shot in a laboratory, shot an electron through a hole in a wall to get to the other side, right? So it's shot through this tiny little hole and it goes to the other side. And then they move this whatever barrier they had so that there's no more hole. And then they shoot the electron toward the same spot, but now there's no hole. So the electron then moves and finds the hole and goes through it and gets to the other side. So that's like how intelligent an electron is. That's how much consciousness is right here in front of you, you know. So you can affect it with your mind. You can tell it, okay, electron, go this way. Okay, now go this way. You know, so you can affect your reality. And if you hold something long enough, you hold some intention of how you want the electrons around you to form and look, you can create a physical formation of what's in your mind. And eventually it will show up. It takes time, but if you hold that intention long enough, eventually these things come together to become that physical form of what you had thought of.
If manifestation was a human body, in the past 3 minutes, you just added the skeleton, the meat, yeah. Cool.
And the consciousness.
Yeah. Okay, longevity. Actually, before longevity, I'm most excited about food combining. What do you think about that?
I don't know much about it. I know that when I eat certain foods, like my body feels better. When I eat certain foods, my body feels worse. And so I just try and be careful about what I put into my system because I want to stay at a high vibration level. And I think that that's the most important thing for a person is to pay attention. I don't know the specifics or the science behind food combining and what you should eat or you shouldn't eat. I'm not strict on anything. Like I'm not a vegan. I was at one point and felt really good and had certain things working better because I was vegan and certain things not, or I felt like kind of ungrounded when I was vegan and a little bit like spacey and stuff. And so I started eating meat again and felt a lot more grounded through the meat. And then, you know, it slows down other things in your system. So I don't know. I think it's probably just really individual, you know, like what makes your digestive system work right, what makes your brain work right, what makes you stay up late at night because you're overstimulated. Don't eat those foods. So I don't know.
Yeah, I recommend this book here, put on the screen there, Herbert Shelton's Food Combining. It's quite cool. One of the things is like, don't eat protein with starch. It doesn't mix.
Yeah.
The basic rules of food combining.
Yeah, there's all sorts of science in that book.
Yeah.
Longevity.
Yeah. Longevity is in the mind, first in how you think and how stressed out you get about life and the world around you. I think that longevity is first in your mindset about life. And some people have a way of aging themselves through how they think, and then some people have a way of staying young forever through how they think. But you want to get into the practices of it all. Everything that I do, I don't sit and research. I don't, have scientific studies to back any of this. I have my own personal experience. And so when I've eaten, I would say antioxidant type foods, I get better skin. When I'm drinking lots of water, my skin looks better. And when I'm, have enough healthy fats in my system, my hair looks thicker and, whatever. So I think that diet is a big part of it. And I think that eating the diet for you that's going to work best is where you need to go. Like, you need to watch your skin and watch your body and see what type of foods is going to keep you healthy. And I think that's a huge part of it. Huge, like all of the toxins that are out there, smoking and drinking. And, when you clean up, that's, that definitely going to preserve your system, the actual vessel, that you live in. But there is the whole practice of longevity through Qigong, and Mantak Chia teaches all of this stuff, and how you can preserve your system through raising your sexual energy. So there's a whole system out there in the Taoist practice of pulling your sexual energy up into your system rather than letting it drop down and leak out, and saving your seed, for men, and saving your seed as a woman would be shortening your cycles, your periods, and pulling that blood energy into your system and preserving it. It works. It's a practice that if you only really understand, like the food thing, if you do it, I've had these days where I do, an hour of Qigong, and I am just so energized for the day. Like, I have to do more because there's so much running through my system, and then if I've ever gone to a tantra workshop or focused directly on the sexual practices, I mean, that's just another level of, energy in your system. Like, when you can pull, because the sexual energy is meant to drive you towards the opposite sex and connect you so that you can create life, right? You can create a baby. Well, if all of that energy that's driven out into something in your external reality to create something out there was pulled into you and pulled up, then that energy is stored inside of you. So through the Taoist practices, I pull my sexual energy up and in, and then move it through what you call the microcosmic orbit, which runs up your back channel and down your front. So this orbit of energy, and you can make that orbit run really, really fast through having enough energy and power in it. So I pull all that energy through my system, and then they say pack it into your organs. So then you store this energy in your organs. You pack it inside or pack it into your bones. And the organs are the the storehouse of qi in your system, and so they're going to feed you, and they're going to obviously make your system function. But also the bones are storehouses of qi, so the bones can store a lot of your energy and then create more bone marrow and blood cells for your system. So there's a whole practice to it. The Taoist longevity practice is all of your sexual practices. It's pretty powerful stuff.
I've read about the micro or macrocosmic orbits?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In this, there's a lot of info. I haven't actually got onto it yet.
So the microcosmic orbit is up and down your spinal channel. So it's your spine and then up the front channel, and just runs in a circle, right? In a one orbit. The macrocosmic orbit runs through your entire body. So there's a line that'll go, over your arms and then back under and then down your legs and back up. And so you can run your orbit through your entire body and get this energy running through your whole system. Pretty powerful stuff.
What would you say to someone who is skeptical and they don't know how to feel it, but they really want to?
I think actually seeing some pictures that like Mantak Chia has a lot of books out there where he's got a diagram or a picture of how the energy is supposed to run through your system. And I think that people that are skeptical are really in their heads. And so they want information. They want information about how this thing works and what is it and what does it look like. And so when I've shown Mantak Chia's books to people, I can show a picture. He has tons of pictures of how this energy is supposed to be running. And when a person can see it and then get a visual image of, oh, this is how it's supposed to work, this is how it's supposed to run, then it makes it easier for them to then feel it. But then I also say just do the practice, If you just did the practice for an hour a day, every day for 2 weeks, you will feel completely different. You will feel it. There's no way you can't, just because you can't feel this one breathwork practice that we're doing right now doesn't mean that it's not happening. And so if you can get someone to commit to a couple weeks of doing this practice every single day, they can't not feel it. It will affect them.
I want to talk about more of this semen retention, because it's a very important thing. And I really want to share it. Especially in this online world, we have us men and many women. Of course, there is free access to explicit material, which can be detrimental to our energy. Mm-hmm. And personally, I experienced about 3 or 4 years of no energy, just baseline. I also was listening to Nirvana a lot and had longer hair. Yeah. So what would you say to a guy who is struggling with NoFap, which is what the movement is called?
It's tough, to get through all of the distraction that's out there on the internet and things that we have access to now, and without a real understanding of what sex is and what sexual energy is and what vital life force energy is and Qigong, who knows what that word even is, it's hard. I think that it's just a real challenge to get through all of the distraction that's out there in the world right now, which is why I said you're lucky to have stumbled upon this information so young, because a lot of people, don't find it till they're 50, 60, if they find it at all. But yeah, I mean, the only thing you can do is educate people, So the way it works is Mantak Chia has a chart of how how many times a man ejaculates and in what type of energy you're losing, right? And so how many times, depending on your age and your health levels, how many times in a year you can ejaculate that would be healthy and not deplete your system, right? And then the number of times in a day that would break down to. He actually has a whole chart. I wish I had that chart, but basically he just explains that, you know, if you cannot do that and you can control your ejaculation and keep the energy inside, then you're not losing your vital life force energy. Just like a woman, if her cycle is too long, like she can shorten through some of the jade egg practices, she can shorten her cycle to be like 2 days long, and then she's not losing as much vital life force energy, and so she can store hers and pull it up into her organs and have it power her through her life. So, you know, it's just very simple. You know, if you can pull the energy up and in and store it, then you have more energy. And if you let it go, if you use it and you let it go, you have less energy. You know, so you want to be careful about, because there's also a limit, you know, it's like a bank account. You can't just spend forever. Like, you have to put money into the bank account. Like, you have to continue, you have to work, you have to have a job so you can put money into your account so that you can spend it, you know. And if you just spend it, eventually and it's different from a bank account, actually, because in a bank account you have to fill it up yourself, you know. But the way our bodies are set up, it's like you're given a bank account with $1 million, you know, and you're like, oh, I can just spend $1 million. I'm going to spend this, and I'm going to buy this, and I'm going to buy this, and I'm going to buy this. Well, eventually it runs out, you know, and you're not going to notice that it runs out for 10 years. You're not going to, maybe 20 years. You're not going to notice that it runs out. But it will, you know, and then you'll be really, really depleted, you know. So people just need to get educated that this is your vital life force energy, and you don't want to waste it. You don't want to overspend, you know. So if you can continue to refuel and continue to do Qigong and pull the energy back in and store it in your organs and store it in your bones, you'll be able to, you know, you'll be able to live longer. You'll be able to have more chi, more vital life force energy for to live, to be out in the world and to live and do things, you know. And I also personally believe that the semen retention for a man in terms of relationship is really, really important, because it gives him more time, because a man who has learned how to control his ejaculation knows how to control his emotions, knows how to control his urges, knows how to control his mind, right? And it's like all the meditation practices, you know, fasting and controlling yourself, you know, like you can pull this energy inward instead of having to have a woman or have this sex or have that. You can control it, right? And if you can control it, then you can see the woman or man or whoever you're dealing with in front of you. You can see that person as a whole person rather than sex, right?
Yeah. That's powerful.
Completely different. It changes everything. It changes a relationship completely and totally, you know, because when there's a goal here and I have to get her or him, I have to get this person, right? And I have to have the sex, right? Then you don't care who the person is. You don't care what the person's doing. You don't care where they're going in their life. You don't care what's in their heart. You don't care what, you know, it's in their mind, you know. But if you don't have to do that, if you're pulling your sexual energy in and you're feeding yourself, and it goes, the way the energy goes is down and out, right? Versus in and up, right? So if you're pulling this energy up all the time, your brain is on a different level. Like, you're smarter. you're moving this energy into your system, and you're activating different centers of your brain so you can be more aware, you can be more present, you can be more clear about what you want, and you can see the person in front of you, and then be able to say, oh, maybe this person has a lot of drama in their life, maybe I don't want to deal with that. And you can see it rather than just being like, locked in, right? And or you can pull the energy up and be clear about what you want, and set an intention and create exactly what you want, and ask the universe for exactly the type of partnership that you want. So it's a really powerful practice. I think that everyone should be doing it. I think the world would be a different place if everyone was doing it.
Yeah. Definitely from a man's perspective, courage builds, like, man, it's incredible. And it's just a great, I think for everyone, it's a great experience to feel courageous, and to act without fear, which I suppose that is. So think of like a teenager, and he's just fapping a lot, has no energy. And so if there is an attacker or like a burglar or something, just an example, he's probably not going to do anything about it. Stays the child, Peter Pan syndrome. So some would say we need more men on the planet.
Yes.
This practice. And let's say about how it raises, just on like an ego level, it raises our sexual market value, because we have the choice, we can choose, we can, no STDs, like we don't have to sleep with anyone, just because of the urge,
Yeah, sexual market value, I guess it does raise it. Yeah. I mean, these practices are, they're life-changing, they really allow a person to have more control over their life and their energy and what they choose to do and who they choose to be around and be with. It gives you a lot more internal power. And that internal power is what might direct you to change careers, to, like you said, have courage to do something in your life. When you have a real sense of internal power, you don't need things in the world. You don't need to work for a particular person or, worry about how much money you have, or, like, you don't have to be bound by what's given to us in the world. Like, you really, when you have the ability to cultivate yourself, you have the ability to create your own life. You have the ability to really think for yourself and build your own thing in the world,
The two words, creative power.
Creative power.
Yeah. Like, man, because that urge, guys, when you feel the urge, that urge is the urge for you, all of you, to create another one of you, to duplicate yourself, all of your memories tied to this one thing, and to create another one, like, wow, with like half difference with someone else who also has their urge, and it's coming together. It's like the yin and yang symbol. There's nothing more powerful, really, than that.
Yeah.
One thing I wrote down was I would not be able to do this, what we're doing right now, a few months ago or like 6 months ago, because of NoFap. Or actually, I put down YesFap, which is the opposite of NoFap. So yeah, power internal.
What I do in terms of my healings comes out of all of these practices and all of this work, because I do go into what I call the mainframe and download information from the universe, just like our computers do, just like our cell phones do. I use all these practices to, like I'll do different practices. I'm not just doing Qigong. I do the yoga, I do meditation, I do Qigong, and I go into this Mainframe, and that's how I've been able to do readings on people. And so the work that I do, yes, I teach Qigong and I teach these practices, but the work that I do as healings is psychic, clairvoyant work, working on people, so I think that's what is really cool about all of this work, is to know that the end result can be that you tap into the Mainframe and you can do a lot of mystical things. Like, there's a lot of mystical things out there that people can do, and I can do it. Like, I'm not, and I don't mean to say that I'm any kind of like magician or anything, but like it's just like how our true fourth and fifth dimensional setups are work when we're wired correctly, is you should be able to be psychic. We should be able to be on this like fourth and fifth dimensional level, so in tapping into all of that, I do these readings. So I look at people's auric field, and I can see past life information, and I can see chakras that are blocked, and I can see cords that are stuck between them and another person, and I can see like your thoughts are somehow formations that I can see. I don't know how it works. Again, like, I don't study this stuff scientifically, but I just know that, once I go into these spaces, I see these things, and it's stuff that you can clear and you can clean out. Like, you can clean your past life information and come into a karmic completion of it and resolve old issues. And so I think that it's something that if people were to work with more, they would have, their lives would be a lot easier, because you can go into the Mainframe of someone's setup and you can clean things out, and you can reset their system, and you can clear a lot of past traumas and things like that. And so that's the level that we can get to with all of this work, is to become superhuman at some level, of knowing things and downloading information and seeing things and being psychic and intuitive and all of the feminine mystical things. They're all real. They're all really tangible, trainable skills, that you can develop. And I think that we're ready for it. I think that humanity is going to open and be ready for this stuff. And so the people that are doing that type of work need to be out there guiding people into what it really looks like to be a fourth dimensional human being on the planet that's ready to release this three-dimensional control over our minds. So we get to open up, we get to have these psychic abilities, we get to have this other level of consciousness and functioning in the world.
If the stuff you just mentioned there would be stage turquoise on the spiral dynamics model, which is at the top. It's at the top.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Safyra. It's been great, and I'd love to have you back for another talk.
Thank you so much.